Hello, humane marketers. Sarah Anne here. Welcome to another episode of the Humane Marketing Podcast, a place to be for the generation of marketers who cares. This is the show where we talk about marketing your business in a way that feels good to you, is aligned with your values, and also resonates more with your conscious customers because it's not pushy, ethical, and also beautiful. So if you're a regular here, you know that I'm organizing the conversations around the 7 Ps of humane marketing. And if you're new here and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. You may want to download your one-page marketing plan with the 7 Ps of humane marketing in the form of a mandala at humane.marketing/one page, the number one and page. So again, humane.marketing/one page. And with that, with no further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Anne. How are you? It's so good to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Sarah.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. And this, as we were sharing before we hit record, this topic of peaceful productivity, I think it's just so needed right now. And you and I had a little conversation about the third book that I'm writing about business like we're human and how that really fits in with peaceful productivity, right? And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. So why don't you start by sharing how you define peaceful productivity? Like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. It's still very much an evolving concept and journey for myself, but really it's this intersection between the doing and the creating the output and achieving the goals that we've set, creating the input that we're here in the world to create, but also maybe not doing as much and more in the sense of enjoying life and enjoying the moment, being present, really tuning into what lights me up and what are things that I don't really like to do or want to do, and focusing on this mix of yes, okay, we have to create some sort of work and maybe have a routine and have some outcome, but at the same time there's more to being productive than just showing, oh, I hit my goals, I've ticked the boxes, I've crossed out all the to-dos on my list. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have that balance, then we often hit burnout. So many people have gone through that. I've gone through that myself several times. So it's this mixture of the doing, the being, and just changing the mindset about what it means to be productive.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think there's so much pressure on this productivity. Yes, you were sharing just before that you were in a corporate job, and so there's that kind of pressure there where productivity is linked to how you climb up the ladder. But then, funnily enough, most entrepreneurs then take that wisdom into entrepreneurship, right? And it's not like we say, oh, now I'm my own boss and now I can, decide how I'm going to be productive. No, we still have this idea of, no, I need to work at least 8, if not 10 hours per day and do all of these things. So it's so true. It's really this mindset shift that we need to make in order to make it a peaceful productivity. Yes. So it's so relevant. So how do you feel, or with the work that you're doing with your clients, how do you feel about this societal pressure? Like, does that come over in your conversations with clients? Is that a thing that they often mention?
Yeah, I mean, it's really often conversations of like, and there's just too much to do. I have all these ideas. I have all these other responsibilities. Most of my clients are moms who have a business, and it's constantly feeling like there is not enough time in the day. There's too many things to do. there's all this pressure of like, oh, business should be done in this certain way because that's how people are used to doing business. You've got to show up consistently, and you have, it's all these halves that we see elsewhere, and you work with people. I'm totally into coaching and I have support and all of that, but quite often I feel like a lot of people also kind of get a bit confused with you should be doing it like this, and that's the process, and if you don't do it, then you do it wrong, or you're not going to achieve the outcome. And it's all these like mixed messages that we receive, and then that inner sense of like, it's not working for me, this is not the life that I want to build, this is not why I came into business. And it's a lot of that, like feeling overwhelmed, feeling like just constantly too much to do, not knowing where to start, and then feeling quite confused, and yeah, also, going down on yourself. Like a lot of women have that tendency of being quite negative. You're just not working hard enough, or today you took too much time to clean the kitchen instead of doing that thing, and like all that inner talk that we have. And that's a lot of conversations that I hear, and a lot of women are pretty fed up with that constant inner dialogue and this feeling of like just never achieving or never coming up to that level of the expectations they have on themselves, or also that society has on them, and just, yeah, not feeling like they holding up with that grand image that we should represent today, that women can do so many things and we can do it all, we can have it all. And they don't feel like that, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things you said resonated. It's this idea of the shoulds and the kind of also this idea of perfectionism. What comes up for me also in the entrepreneurial world is this image that everything should be free. We should have all these free things and free content and content creation, content column, all of this production that we're creating that is not paid time. And that over the last 15 years has been kind of like put in the spotlight as that's just how you are supposed to run a business as an entrepreneur. And when you kind of counter position that with someone who is in a paid job, it's like, if you think about it, it's crazy how much time as entrepreneurs we are supposedly just being productive for free compared to someone who has a paid job, right? And I think that's part of also my revolution in terms of the humane business, humane marketing. It's like, well, who says we have to spend all of this time for free productivity, right? Like I'm my own boss, you're your own boss. So we decide where it ends. Yes, obviously it's a good thing. And I still am for that there's free offers.
Yeah.
But there's a limit to it because
Exactly.
otherwise we burn out. So right now we're hosting this expo in the Humane Marketing Circle, and it's kind of like a summit. But when you look at these other summits out there, and you then talk to the summit hosts after the summit, they're all exhausted and burned out.
Oh, yes.
I know because I've been there. Like I've hosted
Me too.
5 summits, you too. And it's exhausting and it's all for free. And it's like, in the end, also when you ask them honestly, what did you get out? Yes, lots of contacts, but not really, the money equation doesn't always really work out. So it's just kind of like questioning all our assumptions, I guess, as well, right? So having that conversation, like you said, well, is this working for you? And if it isn't, how are you going to do it differently? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this brought up so many more societal thoughts there as well, because obviously as women, we are often raised to give, to take care of other people. Again, give free content, give free whatever it is. And also this whole money mindset thing that a lot of women struggle with, me included. Like, how much is what's my worth? How much can I charge, and what's too much? And I want to be accessible to many people because I want to change the world. I mean, this is a lot of conversations I have, and that goes in my own dialogue as well. I want to make it available for the greater good. But then at the end of the day, yeah, the time and money equation doesn't always work out very well. So
Right.
it's those things. And again, it's like sometimes you have to be a bit rebellious in your sense to be like, okay, yeah, I see a lot of people do it like this. It's not working for me. I've got to do it differently. And that can be uncomfortable
Yeah.
and challenging to actually go and do it. But this is exactly why I came up with peaceful productivity, because yes, I love being productive, but the way I've been doing it was just not working at all. So something was missing, and that's the peaceful part. And
Right.
like just what you described in the marketing world as well, it's not always working properly, and it can definitely be improved and changed. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go into, your framework of the peaceful productivity, but beforehand, I just also want to mention a book that we both love, which is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's still my absolute favorite business book, and you said you loved it as well. So what kind of takeaways have you implemented from that book, or what were your main aha moments from reading that book?
Yeah, I think for me it was really bridging this thing of okay, I'm very multi-passionate and very multi-skilled, and I enjoy having lots of projects going on, but at the same time always refocusing on like what's the day to day, how do I feel, and what's really essential to making another step towards the goal, and always bringing myself back to that. Is that really, should I really be doing that? And something that I've really learned through my work, where I'm also running a virtual assistance agency, is like looking at like, what am I doing, and is that really my job, or is there someone else better suited for that, and how can I use my time better? And for me, that spills into my life as well. As a mom of two children, I spend a lot of time with my children because that's how my choice that I'm making. But it's also sometimes going back, is it essential for me to be right there with them focused, or is it okay for them to do whatever they're doing, even if it's on the tablet for a little bit, so that I can do my work? It's like really always tuning in. Is it essential? I love the word essential. And then just really looking at the things I'm doing, and then getting rid of the stuff that is not essential, like really getting rid of it, removing it entirely, or piling it up somewhere else for that like time when it's the right time to look at these things. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's similar for me. I love how you differentiated, business and work. To me, it's almost like they've become one. So it's like the essential things that I say yes to in work always need to align with the essential things in my personal life, right? And so it's very similar to what you shared. And I think the one thing also that I take away, so it's very much about decision making that this book is helping you with. Like every time you need to make a decision in your business or in your life, you're going to go back to, is this essential? And I think what he shares also, it's quite easy to, or it gets easier with time to say no to the non-essential things. But when you're really mastering it, is when you can say no to even things that do matter to you, but you just know that right now is not the right time, right? And so that's what you said before. It's like, okay, put them to another folder, or like not now, but later. Or never, because you just know, no, this is not my thing, not in this lifetime,
Exactly.
at least.
So true.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, well, let's move on to your framework of peaceful productivity. Tell us a little bit about how you work with people through this idea of being more productive, but in a peaceful way.
Yeah, so for me, peaceful productivity has three pillars. One is the productivity tools, hacks, techniques, whatever you want to call them, all these things like, applications to Pomodoro technique, finding your high performance time, like we're all different, and like some people work better in the morning, some people work better later in the afternoon or evening. Like really looking at, what are the things that work for me, trying some on for size and see what fits, and then letting go of others, because not one technique works for everyone. Also, like looking at what phase in your life are you in, what does your day look like, and how can you make it more productive using the tools and techniques that are available. And then there's the mindset, which is a lot of what we just talked about, the societal beliefs that we have, ingrained in us, the beliefs that we have developed over time, like, often attaching our value and worth to our output, and looking at what's there that maybe is not working quite well, and what's there that we maybe have to change. And then the third pillar is creativity, because for me, creativity is essential. Personally, I get a lot of energy from doing something creative. So it could really be doing the creative stuff and being like drawing and making, but you don't have to be an artist or really associate or identify yourself as a creative. The creativity can also be in terms of, let's try something different. Let's play around with what we have. Today looks like that. What technique can I put in here? What mindset will I look at today? And just piling it up in a big, pot and mixing it up, and just be creative about it and see what the outcome is. Problem solving, obviously, we all mostly know that creativity helps with problem solving. So it's that part of like playful and just trying things that maybe you haven't tried before, because that's when things could shift. And you're like, oh, interesting, that was actually quite nice, and I didn't expect that to work so well for me. Let's focus on that, and let's hone in on that. So it's really these three elements. And I work with clients mostly one-on-one, where we have a sort of audit or assessment of like what's there right now, going in all the different pillars that I've just mentioned. Then we come together, we have a conversation, we share some thoughts and tips that I have gained over the period of time that I've been doing that. And I help my clients to implement them, because obviously we have a lot of knowledge, but if we don't go and find a way to have that going on a daily basis, not much is going to change. So it's that process of like identify what's happening right now, see what can be changed and improve, and then implementing and refining. And that's my camera gone again.
Because you're back. That's great. I love how you combine the doing, or more like the left brain, which is the tools and the strategies, with the right brain, which is the creativity, right? Because I think kind of in the traditional way that I've seen people talk about productivity, it's mainly like left brain. It's like, Excel spreadsheets and in that kind of more, left brain approach. And I love how you bring in the creativity, which makes it much more fun for your clients to be productive. I love that. Yeah. Can you, maybe you mentioned the Pomodoro technique. Can you maybe, well, for people who don't know what that is, share about that? And then maybe you have one other strategy that you, or tool that you usually give clients and would like to share here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Pomodoro is this concept of you work for a stretch of, I believe, 20 minutes, and then you take a break, and then you go back to work, and you take a break, and so on and so on. And theoretically, you would put on a timer, and you literally just have that chunk of work, time to work, which is interesting, because what really happens is that if we allow an hour for a task, the task likely is going to take an hour. If we say, okay, I only have 20 minutes to work on this, we actually might achieve that task in the 20 minutes, or we break it down in different chunks, because our brain needs that break. The mistake that a lot of us make, and I still sometimes make, is that we try to focus so hard and really just work through it and push through the job at hand, so that we can tick it off the to-do list. But our brain doesn't quite work so well. So we get into these dips of focus time and performance. And that's when taking little breaks in between really increases the brain function and the work that we can achieve. So personally, I don't do the Pomodoro technique. I work more in 90 minutes chunks, because that's kind of works better for my day and how it's set up, because my day is very split into morning work, afternoon kids, and a little bit of evening work. But yeah, it's like this trying out. I've tried the Pomodoro, I didn't quite like it. I find the 90 minutes a bit better for me. But then the other thing that I really enjoy and that has changed a lot for me is the whole idea of making a plan. I'm a planner. That's what I am, who I am, and I love spreadsheets. But I don't like making a whole year of plan has never worked for me, because I would lose track and would be like, oh yeah, I still have 6 months until December. I'll do it one day, and then I never got to do it. But now I look at 3-month planning chunks, and then I create a monthly plan, a weekly plan, monthly, weekly, and I have my daily like morning rituals where I sit down and I look at the week and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do today? And it's breaking it down and taking the intentional time. I mean, that's like 5 to 10 minutes per day, maybe, where I really look at the planning side of things, and I select the top 3 priorities that are kind of my non-negotiables for the day, and then a few other things that I think I could chunk in. And I always have 3 sort of self-care, creative, joyful things that I put on my list, because again, that part is really, really important to feel peaceful. But that really has helped me so much of not feeling this constant, oh, what am I doing today? Where am I even going to start? Where was I with this project? And then at the end of the month, you kind of look at the things you've done. You're like, yeah, I've done a lot. I've worked a lot, but I didn't actually achieve the goal that I was set to achieve. And that's happened to me a lot, of like constantly working, but not getting to where I wanted to get, because I lost sight of what's the plan. So yeah, that's really powerful for me.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I have a similar approach with the, breaking down the months. For me, it's more like because of the way I run my programs. So it's very much backwards planning from, okay, here's where I run my program, what needs to happen to leading towards that program, and then everything daily and weekly activities run around these programs, right? And so I really agree with that we need to always be, and I on my daily planner, I have like the top thing
Like
says
yeah.
the big goal. It's like, this is this is what I'm working towards, and then be reminded of that, because otherwise you're constantly putting out fires and spending tons of times in email without actually getting to anywhere. And what I like also about having those 3, sometimes it's 4 priorities of the day, then when you have reached these priorities, and I try to always not make them like this big giant thing that I know I cannot accomplish in a day, then you can actually turn off the computer after these 3 or 4 things, right? And then that feels good, where otherwise you never actually feel like you've done enough, because you haven't given yourself a container. So yeah, I love that very much, what you shared. And then the peaceful parts, the self-care things. I do have, no, I don't have that. I have a mantra on mine, which I sometimes kind of give myself a little energy boost. But I like the way how you say, okay, what kind of fun thing am I doing? That's actually on my Google Calendar. I always have my I go for a daily walk that's blocked out, or I have the gym. But I'll add them on that daily printout as well. I like that.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
very good.
I love the ticking off, like this act of I've done it. It's really good. And I need to write it down on my list, because I'm that kind of person who will first thing drop all the fun and the self-care things, because I'm so much like, oh, I want to make, like, I just love what I'm doing, and I love creating in that way, that I'm the first to forget, like to walk and to eat and all of that. So I need to write it down on the list to make sure that, I remind myself this is also very important.
This is important too. Yeah, it's wonderful. You mentioned earlier that you're also running a virtual assistant business or agency, right? So in a way that probably fits into this conversation very well, because what we just shared is all about being productive, but also kind of demonstrating, well, you can't do it all, right? Like there's just so much to do to run a business that it's actually a very smart thing to work with someone else who enjoys doing the small things that you don't have time to. And so that's what you're doing also with your VA business. I do feel that I do feel like that's one of the things that I did right from the get-go. I've been working with VAs for 15 years. There's so many things I didn't do, but that one I did well. And yet I still find a lot of resistance from entrepreneurs because they see it as an expense, right? And it is, yes, you have to have the money, but it's this chicken and the egg thing. Like, when do I have the enough money? And so, yeah, talk to us about that, how we can shift this mindset for people to not see it as an expense, but as an investment in their business.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I mean, the investment really is in your own time, in buying back your own time. So if you feel that there's just too much to do, I have all these great ideas, but I never have enough time, well, then it's perfect to invest some money, and it doesn't have to be a full-time role and one VA doing hours and hours of work. VAs can work for just a few hours a week, and they can take off a few things off your plate that really you don't have to do, because they don't require you as the person, as the face of your business, to execute that task, especially the admin things. I mean, I really don't enjoy admin, so I definitely give that to VAs. I've always have, because it's just not what I enjoy. And why would I want to spend my precious energy and precious time on the things that I don't like doing? This is exactly what I used to do in a corporate job, where you just had to do it because your boss told you. Well, now I have the freedom as the boss of myself to decide which task I do and which task I give to the team. But is this resistance of like, okay, it's going to cost me money. Is the person really going to do it as well as I can? Because I'm, I have my certain way, and I have my very high standards. That's the perfectionist that comes through in a lot of people. But at the end of the day, you don't, you don't necessarily give away the very precious task. You give away some tasks that are necessary to run your business, but they are not what you have to do as like your expertise, your skill. And there's someone else there who can probably do it better, faster, and who enjoys it. Like you said, there's people who enjoy these kind of things versus you might just be really good at something else. And it doesn't have to be many hours. I think this is also the perception that, okay, I've got to give a VA a stable number of hours, a stable task. It could be a VA who comes in for a certain project. Like, for example, I don't know, for your book writing, I'm sure there is tasks that you don't do on a daily basis, but you do it because you have your book to create, and then the VA can support you on a project, and then next month you don't work with the VA. It's all possible. It's just a way of a question of reaching out and finding the right person.
Right. I think maybe it's a little bit about this fear. Well, how am I going to find the right person, right? And then I do remember in the early days I've had many experiences that didn't work out. But in a way, that's also how you learn, because I think it really is a way you need to learn how to work with a virtual assistant, because it's all about the communication. It's all about the system. It becomes kind of your employee, whether this person only works for you an hour per week or has a full-time job. You still need to communicate as if she was your employee, because that's where things go wrong, I think, most of the time, when people say, oh, I tried to work with a VA, it was horrible, it didn't work out. Well, how did you communicate? Did you train her? Like this whole idea of, training someone and then making sure, like I created an operations manual for the virtual assistant, because, well, right now with the one I have, and I've had several, I've been lucky, she's been with me for years and years. but what if this person all of a sudden decides, oh, I'm going back to corporate, or who
You never
knows,
know.
people
Yeah.
get busy or get pregnant or whatever it is.
Yes,
And
they
so
do.
then you're like, now what? Well,
Yeah,
if you've spent
exactly.
the time and invested into, creating manuals and videos and things like that, then you can just easily, replace that person and say, okay, here's what you need to know. Let's, when
Exactly.
can you train yourself basically, and
Yeah.
then step in. So it is an investment in your business. It kind of, when you were talking, because I'm a business coach, made me think it's kind of the same conversation with when is it time to hire a business coach, right? It's like
Yep.
it's an investment that will save you time, but it's like, well, if I don't have the money, I'm not ready to
Yeah.
invest. And so it's that same thing. It gains you back time and life energy, and yeah, more, you move much faster.
Much
That's what
faster.
it really
Exactly. I
is.
think this
With
is
working
also,
with someone else, you move faster, you can get more done. And what I talk a lot about in this new book is the spaciousness. You gain
yeah.
spaciousness for being human, which
Yeah.
if you're working 10-hour days because you're creating all this content, being productive by yourself, you don't have that. So yeah,
Exactly. And that's when business is not fun anymore and it's a grind
no,
and it's just another job as well, because at the
yeah,
end of the day, you're chained to your desk. And if you don't produce, you don't have the income and so
yeah,
on. It's all that chain, the whole chicken and egg conversation. Exactly. But there's
yeah.
two things that came for me, that came
Hmm.
to my mind. It's like a lot of people are scared of the training aspect.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to invest my time into training that person. Well, I always feel like, yes, of course, you have to share how you do things and how you want them to be done. But I believe that if you're clear on what skills does that person need and what are the tasks at hand, and then really look for the person who matches that, you don't necessarily have to train so much, because the person likely knows whatever system you're using better, because
Yeah.
she's been working with different clients on different things, and she doesn't
Hmm.
need to understand exactly what you do because she already knows the system as such. But then also the other part is the whole concept of like, you can train as you go along. And that's what I have done, because I started out as a solo VA by myself, and I was quite resistant to bringing in a team and turning it into an agency, because of exactly the reasons that we discussed. But I have always been very clear to my associate VAs that I'm in this transition right now, like, I mean, a little while ago, but I would tell them, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going from single to team. I don't know what I'm doing. And this could be a little bit messy. Are you okay with that? And I think this is important. If someone is like, oh no, I want someone who really tells me A to Z what I'm supposed to do, and here is my list. And if that's how she works or he works, perfect. But then unfortunately, you're not going to fit with me, because with me, it can be a little bit messy. And I'll be like, oh, what do you think? Like, what would you do? And how would you create this? And I have loved these conversations, because again, if we're all by ourselves, we often get stuck in our mind. We're like, I don't know, should I do it like this or should I do it like that? And then maybe I don't do it at all because I don't know the answer. But if you have someone that you can bounce ideas, like a coach or your VA who's very smart often, it can really change the way you do things and the things that you can achieve, the outcome you can achieve.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. And you're so right. What really matters is that you find the right person on a kind of like resonance level, but also on a
Yeah,
skill level. And
totally.
and I feel like people think, oh, I just need one VA to
Yeah,
help me with everything. And that's another reason why it often goes wrong, because you actually
very true.
need to hire for the skill and not just, oh, I need one VA. So you really need to,
Yeah,
when you interview, you really need to make sure, okay, am I clear what I need help with? And does this person have the skill to help me with this specific thing? So I think that's super
absolutely.
key.
So
Mhm.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to well, actually, why don't you share your website, so if people are listening and are like, oh, that sounds, like the kind of VA agency that I would love to work with, why don't you share your website? And do you
Yeah,
have
so the
two
website
different
is,
websites for the?
I've got two websites exactly.
Yeah,
So
okay,
there's
so
the
share them now.
virtual assistance agency is called the Virtue Fully, like virtual and full service,
Mhm.
virtuefully.com. And then where I talk about the peaceful productivity is annerajoo.com. So it's these separate entities, kind of.
Wonderful. Yeah. And we'll make sure to share both websites also in the show
Thank you.
notes. And yeah. Um, just kind of to wrap up, like what would be like one thing that you would share, that where to start with this idea of peaceful productivity? That maybe the
Mm.
first thing that you look at with your clients. You talked about an audit, maybe that's it. What would you say is the first thing
Yeah.
to look at?
Yeah, so I've got what I call the wheel of peaceful productivity. So
Mm,
it's a bit similar to the wheel of life, where we compartmentalize different areas of how we do work, and then we rank them. And that can be in form of a wheel, or it could really just be sitting down and thinking, okay, which parts in my day do I enjoy? And I feel they are working quite smoothly, and I'm very happy with these things. And what are areas in my life, in my day, or times in my day, or jobs that I'm doing, tasks that I'm doing in my business that feel not so good? And to then look at, what's the balance at the end? Is there a lot more of like what I'm enjoying, or is there a lot more of the stuff that's getting on my nerves and that makes me feel quite anxious and overwhelmed? Well, if that's the case, then obviously you know that, first of all, you could go back to what do you enjoy and how can you bring more of that. That could be, the creativity, the self-care, the fun parts. What is fun in your business, and how can you do more of that in any given day? And then obviously you can look at the things that are not working so well, and you can look at what can I take out, again, remove completely. Is it really essential? Going back to the book, essential.
mhm.
What can I delegate to a VA or a team member or a partner, or whatever it could be? It doesn't even have to necessarily be in business. It could be in other areas of your life. Maybe there's some opportunity there to pass on some responsibility to someone else. And really just have that balance sheet and pick one item from the fun and good stuff and one item from the not so good stuff, and look at what could you do with those things, and start from there. Not overwhelm yourself with, I'm going to change everything overnight, because that's not going to work. Take small little baby steps.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this idea of the wheel, so that it gives you this visual of your business, and where you enjoy it and where you're like, why am I still doing that? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's so good. Wonderful. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm grateful for the work you're doing. I think it's so needed. So thank you so much for being on the Humane Marketing Podcast, Anne.
Thank you so much. It was a huge pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching and being part of a generation of marketers who cares for yourself, for your clients, and for the planet. We really are change makers before we are marketers. So go ahead, be the change you want to see in the world. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.